Hey, Cartez Ross, welcome to the website. Getting a lot of emails from people inquiring about simple questions, really. How do you travel abroad? How are you taking care of yourself? How are you? How do you select the places you want to go and all of that stuff? And we're going to talk about that today. Really, I'm going to break this video down in two parts because it's really hard to talk about the money side without talking about the other side. What we're going to talk about today really is the mindset. This whole thing here, in terms of making the type of money you need to do the things you want to do, really is a mind game. And there's one thing at the top of that mind game pyramid you have to get right before you do anything else. And if you do this, you can literally go anywhere you want, buy anything you want, do anything you want. And I know it sounds corny as heck, but it's true. And I got proof. So if you could just bear with me for a few minutes while I break this down. I did a radio show on this topic about a year or so ago, and got me some notes. Can't remember all the details, so I'm gonna read a little bit from some notes. A study conducted on the 1979 Harvard MBA program, where students were asked if they had set clear written goals, and not just written goals, but did they write down plans for accomplishing those goals as well. Now, the results of that graduating class was that only 3% of that class wrote down their goals and plans. 13% of that class, they had some goals, but they weren't written down. So in essence, they had a general idea of what they wanted to do and how they were going to do it. Now, that leaves the remaining 84% of that same graduating class. That lot had no goals, no plans, nothing written down. They just had no goals. So 3% had written goals along with plans on how they want to accomplish it. 13% had a general idea of what they were going to do, but had no written goals and no written plans. And the remaining 84% had no goals whatsoever. Now, the folks doing the study, they went back to that same class 10 years later, and they interviewed that class of students again. And the results, you're going to find, are quite shocking. Now, the 13% that had goals but didn't write them down, this group was earning 2 times more than the 84% who had no goals at all. Now, if you remember the 3%, they wrote down their goals, and they also wrote down plans for accomplishing those goals. Now, these folks, this 3%, they earned 10 times more money than the entire 97% of the graduating class combined. The 3% earned more than the 97% combined. So I'm gonna break this down just a little bit further. So let's assume there were only 100 people in that graduating class. 3 people, the 3 who wrote down those goals, earned more than the 97%. So that 97%, if you take all of their income and their salary and add it up together, these 3 earned 10 times more than that 97%, 97 people combined. There's your formula, folks. Goal setting. You have to write down your goals. If you don't have goals, I did some further research, investigated this study a little bit more, and I found out that only 3% of the population worldwide has written goals. So that means 97% of you all that are watching this video right now do not have any written goals. Now, goals literally are a blueprint of your future. Once you write out this future and you write out a map or a plan for accomplishing these goals, the goals themselves, they, in a sense, create boundaries. They tell you what to do. They tell you what you should be working on. They tell you what you shouldn't be working on. They keep you focused. Instead of going out to the club on a Friday night, you staying at home working on your business plan. Because the goals are telling you, these are the things I have to accomplish first before I can go out there and shake my booty. You know what I mean? So with 97% of the population wandering aimlessly throughout life, it's no wonder why we're not able to achieve and do the things we want in life. Now, I'll give you my own story. I heard people talk about setting goals for a long time. I go to these conferences. I'll spend thousands of dollars to attend these conferences. And the one thing I continued to hear throughout for years, write down your goals, write down your goals. I thought I was smarter than the average bear and felt I didn't have to write them down, and I didn't. Now, these were folks that were already doing it, but it wasn't until later on in life, just really a few years ago, that you can shut that door right there. Just a few years ago, this one right here, a few years ago, that I actually started writing down goals, and an amazing things started to happen. Things started changing. Things started going my way. I had a clear direction. Goals told me what to do every day. They told me what to do when I woke up. They told me things I shouldn't be working on. I can't go spending my money on this because I have to focus on accomplishing this goal that I have written out and keep me on track. So you ask people, and I get a lot of folks emailing me, man, I want to travel abroad. I want to live abroad. Where do you think I should go? How do I find these places? Guess what? That's a good, clear sign that they hadn't done enough research themselves if they're asking me where to go. They have no goals. They have no clue. And if you have no clue, you have no direction. So the very first thing you have to do is go get some paper and start writing down those goals. If you want to go live in South Africa, in Cape Town, or Johannesburg, or wherever, write it down. And the beauty about this here is, guess what? You can make these goals as big and as outrageous as you want. I'd encourage you, if you want to take the time to write this down, because if 3% can earn 10 times more than 97% of the folks combined, 10 times more. If they can do that, imagine what you can do if you write down these goals. So go big, don't go small. Think about John F. Kennedy. Back in the day when he was president, he said, we want to put man on the moon. And at that point, no one had sent the man up into outer space and to the moon. He put a timeline on it, a time frame, a deadline, and guess what? They got it done. They accomplished that goal. They wrote the goals down. They started working backwards to figure out how they were going to get there, and they got there. And think about the supercomputers that they had back then. The cell phones that we have now were 100 times more powerful than their computers back then. So as a result of that space program and setting that big outrageous goal, a lot of the computing and the software that we benefit from now came because of that declaration made by John F. Kennedy. So don't go small. Because when you talk about putting man on the moon, that is outrageous and it's crazy of a goal that anybody can set. When the Wright brothers in South Carolina talked about, hey, we're gonna build this plane and we're gonna fly folks in the air like a bird and transport folks from the East Coast to the West Coast, folks looked at them like they were crazy. So I want you to get outrageous and crazy with your goals. If you write it down and start to work backwards and start putting systems in place and trying to outline how you're going to make this happen, a funny thing start to happen. You'll start to figure stuff out. When I wanted to start my own business online almost 20 years ago, I was going to the bookstore. I was teaching myself HTML and all the different types of programming language to build websites. I had a goal to make some money. I had a goal to quit my job and work for myself. And while I didn't write them down, there were very specific things that I did so that I could stay focused on the plan. I didn't go spend my money hanging out at the club, partying, drinking. Now, I did a lot of drinking after I got my money. And when I think about it, I done some dumb things with my money because I was broke I made a lot of money, but I was broke because I didn't have a plan on what to do with the money. I didn't tell my money what to do. So when you don't have a plan, you lose everything, but write down your goals. So today I want you to get in that 3% of people who actually have written goals. And the best thing for you to do is go get you some paper and just start writing down your goals. It's simple. And then as you start writing them down, start working backwards. Figure out what needs to happen to accomplish this. So if you want to be, say, for example, an airline pilot, write that down, and then you start backtracking. What do I need to do to become an airline pilot? What schools do I need to go to? Are there programs where I can learn from an individual pilot? How much does it cost? What type of licenses do I need to have? What type of insurance do I need to have? How much is it going to cost me? Once you know the cost, how many extra hours do I need to pick up at the job, et cetera, et cetera. Once you start breaking this stuff down, you become surprised. One of the things that I've done in the past, I wanted to run some ads in business opportunity magazines, and people have always told me that it costs $10,000+ to run a full page ad in these biz opportunity magazines. So for so many years I didn't do it. Too busy listening to what other folks told me. So I finally, after listening to somebody at a conference, after I left that conference, I wanted to take action right away. I went and called a couple of these magazines. It just so happened to be near the end of the month. The publishing schedule was about to end. And they told me that they'll let me run a full page ad in the magazine for like $2,000. Unbelievable. I ran my ads, made a ton of money. But the lesson here, the moral of the lesson is, until I made the effort to actually go down, because when I was in that conference, I wrote down a to-do list of things to do, and at the top of that list was to call these magazines. So when I got back home, I went straight down my list. I worked that list, I called those magazines, and I was shocked at the rates that I could actually get those ads ran for. Now, here I am running around for years listening to what everybody else said, never took the time to actually investigate it myself. That's what goals do for you. They give you boundaries, they give you guidelines, they tell you what to do, they tell you when to do it, and you gotta do it. So if you wanna travel all over the world, first identify where you wanna go. Identify how much you're gonna need to get there. Identify the cost of living in that area. Identify what healthcare is gonna cost you. Find out all this information. You have to do the research. It's not easy. You have to do it. That 3% of that class who wrote down their goals, it didn't say they just wrote down their goals. It said they wrote down their goals and they also mapped out a plan outlining how they were going to achieve those goals. So it takes some work. I mean, you're going to live, most of y'all going to live 60, 70, 80 years. You got to get it right. And it seems like this study proves that if you take the time to write out these goals, you can do anything you want. So the question becomes, where do you want to go? It's up to you. You can go anywhere you want. We came to Colombia. We made a decision and we came. When we left Georgia, we decided we wanted to live on this place called Amelia Island, an island out there in Florida. We mapped out a plan and we made it happen. You just got to do it, folks. So again, this is a 2-part series. I'm going to talk about the money stuff, how we make our money, and in the next video. And I'm going to break that down because I think for those of you who want to start a business online, this is probably going to be the easiest way to get started in terms of starting any other type of business. Starting some other businesses, I mean, you can easily spend $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 just to get the equipment, buy into a franchise or whatever. But in many of those cases, it doesn't allow you the mobility to be able to travel and bounce around. The program I'm going to introduce you to allows you to work remotely, work from anywhere in the world. So for those of you who are interested in traveling abroad or traveling anywhere within the United States, the program that I'm going to share with you allows you to do that. So write those goals down. Don't go to bed tonight without writing those goals. They are that important. Thanks for watching. Cartels Ross. Have a wonderful and blessed day.